Dosham! What's up, people survivors here in elsewhere? This is Undefeatable Twilight. And guess what? I'm doing 2 chapters this time because the last chapter I recorded, the sound didn't record. So I have to do that one again. Yay! This is what I get. I forgot that I have to plug in my microphone before I open the camera app. Otherwise, for some reason, it doesn't detect the microphone and doesn't record the sound properly. But I have done that this time, so hopefully it will work. So on a keyboard on my lap, it's kind of hard to hold a book at the same time. I will have to go back a bit to chapter 36. Thankfully, it was a short one. The flying saucer in which 4 prefects had stowed away had stunned the world. Finally, there was no doubt, no possibility of mistake, no hallucinations, no mysterious CIA agents found floating in reservoirs. This time it was real. It was definite. It was quite definitely definite. It had come down with a wonderful disregard for anything beneath it and crushed a large area of some of the most expensive real estate in the world, including much of Harrods. The thing was massive, nearly a mile across, some said, dull silver in colour, pitted, scorched and disfigured with the scars of unnumbered vicious space battles fought with savage forces by the light of suns unknown to man. A hatchway opened, crashed down through the Harrods food halls, demolished Harvey Nichols, and with a final grinding scream of tortured architecture, toppled the Sheraton Park Tower. After a long, heart-stopping moment of internal crashes and grumbles of rending machinery, there marched from it, down the ramp, an immense silver robot, 100 feet tall. It held up a hand. "I come in peace," it said, adding after a long moment of further grinding, "Take me to your lizard." Ford Prefect, of course, had an explanation for this, as he sat with Arthur and watched the non-stop frenetic news reports on the television, none of which had anything to say other than to record that the thing had done this amount of damage, which was valued at that amount of billions of pounds, and had killed this totally other number of people, and then say it again because the robot was doing nothing more than standing there, swaying very slightly and emitting short, incomprehensible error messages. "It comes from a very ancient democracy, you see." "You mean it comes from a world of lizards?" "No," said Ford, who by this time was a little more rational and coherent than he had been, having finally had the coffee forced down him. "Nothing so simple. Nothing anything like so straightforward. On its world, the people are people. The leaders are lizards. The people hate the lizards, and the lizards rule the people." "Odd," said Arthur. "I thought you said it was a democracy." "I did," said Ford. "It is." So, said Arthur, hoping he wasn't sounding ridiculously obtuse, "why don't people get rid of the lizards?" "It honestly doesn't occur to them," said Ford. "They've all got the vote, so they all pretty much assume that the government they voted in more or less approximates to the government they want." "You mean they actually vote for the lizards?" "Oh yes," said Ford with a shrug, "of course." "But," said Arthur, going for the big one again, "why?" "Because if they didn't vote for a lizard," said Ford, "the wrong lizard might get in. Got any gin?" "What?" "I said," said Ford with an increasing air of urgency creeping into his voice, "have you got any gin?" Look, tell me about the lizards." Ford shrugged again. "Some people say that the lizards are the best thing that ever happened to them," he said. "They're completely wrong, of course, completely and utterly wrong, but someone's got to say it." "That's terrible," said Arthur. "Listen, birds," said Ford, "if I had one Altairian dollar for every time I heard one bit of the universe look at another bit of the universe and say that's terrible, I wouldn't be sitting here like a lemon looking for a gin. But I haven't, and I am. Anyway, what are you looking so placid and moon-eyed for?" "Are you in love?" Arthur said yes, he was, and said it placidly. "With someone who knows where the gin bottle is?" "Do I get to meet her?" He did, because Fenchurch came in at that moment with a pile of newspapers she'd been into the village to buy. She stopped in astonishment at the wreckage on the table and the wreckage from Betelgeuse on the sofa. "Where's the gin?" said Ford to Fenchurch, and to Arthur. "What happened to Trillian, by the way?" This is Fenchurch," said Arthur awkwardly. "There was nothing with Trillian. You must have seen her last." "Oh yeah," said Ford. "She went off with Zaphod somewhere. They had some kids or something. At least," he added, "I think that's what they were. Zaphod's calmed down a lot, you know." "Really?" said Arthur, clustering hurriedly round Fenchurch to relieve her of the shopping. Yeah, said Ford, at least one of his heads is now saner than an emu on acid. Arthur, who is this? Said Fenchurch. Ford Prefect, said Arthur. I may have mentioned him in passing. And now on to chapter 37. For a total of 3 days and nights, the giant silver robot stood in stunned amazement, straddling the remains of Knightsbridge, swaying slightly and trying to work out a number of things. Government deputations came to see it, ranting journalists by the truckload asked each other questions on the air about what they thought of it. Flights of fighter bombers tried pathetically to attack it, but no lizards appeared. It scanned the horizon slowly. At night it was at its most spectacular, floodlit by the teams of television crews who covered it continuously as it continuously did nothing. It thought and eventually reached a conclusion. It would have to send out its service robots. It should have thought of that before, but it was having a number of problems. The tiny flying robots came screeching out of the hatchway one afternoon in a terrifying cloud of metal. They roamed the surrounding terrain, frantically attacking some things and defending others. One of them at last found a pet shop with some lizards, but it instantly defended the pet shop for democracy so savagely that little in the area survived. A turning point came when a crack team of flying screechers discovered the zoo in Regent's Park, and most particularly the reptile house. Learning a little caution from their previous mistakes in the pet shop, the flying drills and fret saws brought some of the larger and fatter iguanas to the giant silver robot, who tried to conduct high-level talks with them. Eventually, the robot announced to the world that despite the full, frank and wide-ranging exchanging of views the high-level talks had broken down, the lizards had been retired, and that it, the robot, would take a short holiday somewhere, and for some reason selected Bournemouth. Ford Prefect, watching it on TV, nodded, laughed, and had another beer. Immediate preparations were made for its departure. The flying toolkit screeched and sawed and drilled and fried things with light throughout that day and all through the night time, and in the morning, stunningly, a giant mobile gantry started to roll westwards on several roads simultaneously with the robot standing on it, supported within the gantry. Westward it crawled, like a strange carnival buzzed around by its servants and helicopters and news coaches, scything through the land until at last it came to Bournemouth, where the robot slowly freed itself of its transport system's embraces and went and lay for 10 days on the beach. It was, of course, by far the most exciting thing that had ever happened to Bournemouth. Crowds gathered daily along the perimeter, which was staked out and guarded as the robot's recreation area, and tried to see what it was doing. It was doing nothing. It was lying on the beach. It was lying a little awkwardly on its face. It was a journalist from a local paper who late one night managed to do what no one else in the world had so far managed, which was to strike up a brief, intelligible conversation with one of the service robots guarding the perimeter. It was an extraordinary breakthrough. I think there's a story in it, confided the journalist over a cigarette shed through the steel link fence. But it needs a good local angle. I've got a little list of questions here, he went on, rummaging awkwardly in an inner pocket. Perhaps you could get him, whatever you call him, to run through them quickly. The little flying ratchet screwdriver said it would see what it could do and screeched off. A reply was never forthcoming. Curiously, however, the questions on the piece of paper more or less exactly matched the questions that were going through the massive battle-scarred industrial quality circuits of the robot's mind. They were these: how do you feel about being a robot? How does it feel to be from outer space? And how do you like Bournemouth? Early the following day, things started to be packed up, and within a few days it became apparent that the robot was preparing to leave for good. The point is, said Fenchurch to Ford, can you get us on board? Ford looked wildly at his watch. I have some serious unfinished business to attend to, he exclaimed. And there you go, 2 chapters for the price of 1, aren't you lucky? See? Twilight makes an error and everyone gets rewarded for it. Anyways, thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, share and subscribe, and if you are subscribed, be sure to ding that notification bell so you know when I make a new video, because I can do it whenever I feel like it. Thanks to my patron Angel. If you want to have me read one of your stories, then please consider supporting me on Patreon, links in the description. And if you like books, you should check out Angel's Amazon page, because he writes books and he's got loads out, and book sales are our main source of income, so any sales help. But if you can't afford or just don't want to pay money, you can always just support me by following, sharing this video everywhere, get more people watching. Any kind of support helps, so thank you for whatever support you decide to give me. See you again next time. Remember to take care of yourselves and each other. Stay positive. Love and peace.